Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Knox County Beer Board. Today is Tuesday, June 20th. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Lundy,
Here.
Commissioner Durant,
Here.
Commissioner Oster,
Here.
Commissioner Ward,
Here.
Commissioner Schoolmaker,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Beeler,
Here.
Commissioner Daly,
Here.
Commissioner Jay, Commissioner Frazier. All members present.
Thank you. We also have up here to my left Kathy Daly with the clerk's office, and to my right Mike Moyers with legal counsel. If we could all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Moyers, if you would lead.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm looking for approval of last month's minutes. I believe you all have received a copy.
Second.
We have a motion by Jay, second by Durant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I'll turn it over to Mr. Moyers for swearing in.
All right, anybody who's here to speak either for or against any item on the agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. If you're here to address this board, please stand and raise your right hand. You think you may be talking? All right. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, be seated.
Thank you. Applications, please.
5A is Dickey's Barbecue Pit, 10853 Hardin Valley Road, on premises, District 6.
All right, do we have an applicant? Sir, you come to the podium, please. State your name and address for the record and who you represent.
Emory Zana, DBA Dickey's Barbecue Pit, 10853 Hardin Valley Road, Knoxville, 37932.
All right, sir. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just answer them best you can. Are you a resident of the state of Tennessee?
Say it again, sir?
Are you a resident of the state of Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the information in your beer board or your beer application current and accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you understand you shall make no beer sales to minors?
Of course.
Okay. Have you or any of your employees at this location been convicted of any violation of the laws regarding possession, sale, manufacture, or transportation of intoxicating liquor or a crime involving moral turpitude within the
No, sir.
past 10 years? All right.
No, sir.
Has beer been sold at this location before?
Say it again?
Has beer been sold at this location
No,
before?
sir.
Okay. Is this for on-premise consumption or on and off?
On.
On-premise? Do you own the premises?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else have an interest in your business?
No.
Okay. Who's going to operate the business?
Say it again?
Who's going to operate the business?
Me.
All right. Are you familiar with the Knox County and State of Tennessee beer laws and regulations?
Yes, sir.
And you agree to comply with them?
Of course.
All right. Have you completed the server training program?
Serve safe, not the alcohol one.
Okay. Let's see. Any health department?
Yes, sure.
This is for other departments. Sheriff's Department?
No concerns.
Codes?
Pending CO.
Okay. Fire Marshal?
Pending CO.
Okay.
Thank you. And we did get a notice from the health department that this has been approved. Do we have any questions about this? Seeing none, it being my district, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application. Second. Motion and second is appropriate. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next item.
5B is Ends Market, number 111 2230 West Governor John Sevier Highway, off premises, District 9.
All right, sir, give us your name and address.
Kareem Bogani, 708 Melford Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37934.
All right, sir. I'm going to ask you a few questions like the last gentleman. Are you a resident of the state of Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Is the information in your beer application current and accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you understand that you shall make no beer sales to minors?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you or any of your employees been at this location been convicted of any violation of laws regarding possession, sale, manufacture, or transportation of intoxicating liquor or a crime involving moral turpitude within the past 10 years?
I know about myself. I don't know about the employees. I'm taking over a store, but not to my knowledge.
Okay. So is there an outstanding license?
Yeah, it is a gas station. They currently sell beer.
Okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
You'll know you have to turn in the old license before.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is this for on-premise or off-premise sales?
Off premise.
Okay. Do you own the premises?
No, sir.
All right. What is your relationship to the property owner? Are you renting or?
I'm going to rent it from him. Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else have an interest in the business?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who else has an interest in the business?
I have a partner in that business who's going to be a managing partner.
Okay. Do all the questions we've asked, he's not been convicted of any crimes
No,
or
sir.
anything like
No,
that? Okay.
no, sir.
Who's going to operate the business?
The employees that are there right now, they will operate the business.
Okay. Are you familiar with Knox County and State of Tennessee beer laws and regulations, and do you agree to conduct your business in conformity with them?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you completed the server training program?
I've done it before.
Okay.
But, I've done tips and task class too.
And all your employees are going to be operating the business, that they have done so as well?
Well, like I said, I'm not sure, but once we take over, we'll have all of them take tips class.
Okay. All right. Health Department? Codes?
Pending CO.
Sheriff's Department?
No concerns.
Fire Marshal?
Pending CO.
My notes indicate that you will need to call the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Have you made that phone call yet?
Yes, I've submitted everything that they asked for, so I guess now someone's going to reach out to me to conduct the health inspection, I assume. Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, thank you. I'd like to speak to you after we get done. If you've got time to hang around, I'd like to speak with you. You got big shoes to fill over there. My kid's been there for 40 years, and his employees are awesome. You will have great employees, trustworthy, reliable employees, and I just want to welcome you to that area, because that man, from car washes to sponsorships, in 40 years, he's really been an asset to our community, and I'm glad he's retiring. I wish he wasn't retiring, but he is. So I'm going to turn
Change
it
is
over.
not always bad, sir. I'm going to retain all the employees. I already had an employee meeting, and Ricky, she's the manager, and she's going to stay on board, and she's going to run the show for Mike, for me, like she did it for Mike.
Well, you'll have no problem then if that's the case.
Yeah, I hope not. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve this application.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Jay, second by Frazier. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
So you still want me? Okay.
Next item.
Inskip Grill at Powell, 2509 West Emory Road, on premises, District 7.
All right, sir. Give us your name and address and who you're representing here today.
Justin Wiseman, 2509 West Emory Road, Powell, Tennessee, 37849, representing Inskip Grill at
Okay.
Powell.
All right. I'm going to ask you some questions. Are you a resident of the state of Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is the information in your application for beer permit correct and accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do Do you understand that you shall make no beer sales to minors?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you or any of your employees at this location been convicted of any violation of the laws regarding possession, sale, manufacture, or transportation of intoxicating liquor or a crime involving moral turpitude within the past 10 years?
No, sir.
Okay. Has beer been sold at this location before?
Previously,
Okay. Is there an outstanding license?
not that I'm aware of. The business closed, I believe, in 2017
Okay. Is this for on or off sale premise sales?
on premises only.
Okay. Do you own the premises?
Lease.
Okay. Does anyone else have an interest in the business?
No, sir.
All right. Who's going to operate the business?
Myself.
All right. Are you familiar with the beer laws of Knox County and the state of Tennessee, and do you agree to conduct your business in conformity with them?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you have you completed the server training program?
I've done inside the city. I've not done the county yet.
Okay. You planning to do that, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sheriff's Department?
I believe that's what it stated on the website. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sheriff's Department?
No concerns.
All right. Codes?
Pending CO.
Fire Marshal?
Pending CO.
Okay.
Thank you. And the note I have from Knox County Health Department is that they're waiting for you to notify them when your equipment is installed.
Yes, ma'am. It's supposed to arrive next week, and just as soon as it arrives and I get it installed, they're supposed to come out and inspect.
All right. I see no questions. I'll turn this over to,
I'll take it.
thank you.
Motion to approve the application as presented.
Second.
Seeing a proper motion by Jay, second by Frazier. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item.
Discussion item regarding Knox County Health Department's new requirements.
Thank you. I believe this is something that Commissioner Schoonmaker asked to have added to the agenda. Floor is yours.
So just understanding is the Knox County Health Department is not going to do the inspections for the beer permits in Knox County as of April, is my understanding. Is that still correct, Kathy?
It is, and it ain't.
Okay, well,
If the grocery stores and gas stations,
correct.
they have to go through the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. But if it's like a restaurant or the Inskip Grill, then the health department does that.
Okay, and the reason is the state had allowed the health department with Knox County to conduct all of the inspections, and now they've rescinded that privilege.
That is correct.
Okay, so you will have a list when they have, as a restaurant and a Knox County Health Department inspects that, you'll have a list of if they've completed that inspection, whereas if it's a gas station or whatever, the state would have to let us know. Correct?
As of today, I had one from a convenience store, and it's just a letter that they send to the customer, which states that it's not approved, but it's okay for them to get their beer permit.
Okay,
I'll bring it,
yeah.
a copy.
But that
of
was
it.
just the main thing, was last month we were a little confused on why we weren't getting a reaction from the Knox County Health Department, and now they're not responsible for a portion of our beer applications.
That
We
is
just want to
correct.
make sure the whole team understood that.
Yeah. My compliments to Ms. Daly. She did follow up with the Health Department and the Department of Agriculture, and the Health Department did actually send us a letter in regard to each item today about what their process was or was not on it. So,
And so there won't be a representative from the Health Department at our meetings. We'll just have the written testimony.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
any other questions about that item? Moving on, next item, please.
Discussion and possible vote on El Tequila Bar and Grill, 7002 Maynardville Pike.
All righty. I think we have several people wanting to address this. The first thing I would like to do is, is have this information passed out that was given to us by Mr. Jones, their representing attorney. While she's passing that out, I would like to hear from the Sheriff's Department, please, on what they have done and their reports in all of this since the incident began.
The latest incident was,
All right, please give us your name and.
Tom Walker, Knox County Sheriff's Office. I'm a lieutenant with the Homeland Security Gang Intelligence Unit.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, Lieutenant Walker.
The latest incident that we had was the May the 9th, when we had a shooting involving in the parking lot of the establishment. Basically, witnesses and video surveillance showed that the incident actually started inside the bar, several people fighting. I found another separate report where a female was assaulted by two other females. But the big fight started, the bouncer staff and the security staff pushed everybody out into the parking lot before police arrived. When our officers arrived, according to the report, there was between 30 and 50 people fighting in the parking lot in several different groups. An individual that was pointed out by the staff as being the one that fired the weapon in the air. He stated that he was protecting himself from a pickup truck that was trying to hit him. There was video surveillance of a black pickup truck doing donuts in a parking lot. Didn't hit anybody, it was just doing donuts. And this gentleman decided that he would go to his car, get a Ruger 9mm semi-automatic, come into the middle of the parking lot and then fire multiple rounds into the air until the weapon locked back to empty. In other words, he emptied the magazine into the air. How many rounds were fired, I cannot tell you the exact number. I do know that the magazine holds 12 rounds of ammunition. At that point, he put the gun back in his vehicle. Police arrived, identified him as the shooter. With consent of the suspect, they searched his vehicle and found the weapon in the condition I just told you about.
All right. Would you know if there's been any reports of any incidences since that time, since May 9th?
There's been a loud music complaint that officers went out and talked to them about, and then also an accident in the parking lot, just a vehicle accident.
A vehicle accident?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Scott, before we hear from you, does the Commission have any questions for the Sheriff's Department at this time? Seeing none, Mr. Scott, if you'd come.
T. Scott Jones of the Knoxville law firm of Banks & Jones, 2125 Middlebrook Pike, Knoxville 37921, here on behalf of El Tequila. I put together a package. Obviously, we recognize that a beer permit is just like our driver's license. It's a privilege. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's something that we take very seriously. I think it was impressed upon us at the last meeting, which we were here April 17th, the significance of the same and the fact that we could not have a situation where there were any other instance or things of that nature. That being said, obviously we relish the opportunity to present information to the board relative to matters of concern, but it becomes very difficult when it is matters of general concern as opposed to what we would ordinarily expect if we are considering removing a beer permit or something of that nature, because it becomes hard to address. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, I apologize.
Yes.
I mean, my verbosity knows no bounds. I'm sorry. But that being said, I do get paid to talk. But that being said, and we certainly understand it's a privilege, it becomes hard to address complaints in generalities. I do appreciate the forthrightness of Lieutenant Walker. Had an opportunity to visit with him, obtain copies of reports and other information that was available. Plus, obviously, we had done our own investigation associated with this matter. He is correct. The incident occurred outside of the premises, if you will. I'm talking about the actual physical premises of El Tequila. It occurred out in the parking lot. As records are in the file and we attach these, actually our security personnel was instrumental and testified on behalf of the state in obtaining the conviction associated with the gentleman with the firearm. I highlighted the salient portions of that. A gentleman by the name of Darwin Joel Valadurez. He is no longer citizen accused, he is citizen convicted. And relative to that, he was convicted and pled guilty on or about May 23rd, 2023. Our security personnel were subpoenaed. My law firm attended in support of the process relative to that. And the board will note relative to the sentence, he is specifically not to have any contact with El Tequila. And that's generalized when we see that as far as witnesses. That information that I pulled for you is from JIMS, Justice Information Management System, our online system relative to it. To my knowledge, and I believe it would coincide with what Lieutenant Walker has indicated, there have been no other incidents with El Tequila since that time. We understand it is a matter of pressing concern. We take it very, very serious. We attempted on multiple occasions to make contact with various law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to the Knox County Sheriff's Department, the Knoxville Police Department. We have an application pending. It shows on our status tab pending relative to the provision of off-duty officers in the parking lot area of this particular establishment. The Sheriff's Department has declined to do so, but KPD, it is still pending. So that we would go ahead and address this, we went ahead and retained a licensed Tennessee security company. So not only will we have our security guards and security personnel within the confines of the business itself, but we will have uniform security in the parking lot. Now, obviously, they will not have law enforcement powers, but their purpose there is to keep the peace and obviously reach out to law enforcement should such assistance be necessary. I've attached the contract and the other information relative to it, including but not limited to their certificates of insurance and the other documentation permitting them to provide such services in the state of Tennessee and particularly Knox County. Also, some other sundry information, some photographs from within inside the establishment, a copy of the menu, and there had been some concern relative to canned beverages opposed to glass. It's not really been brought back up. We think we've got that situation completely under control. So while we are regrettably in front of the board again to have discussions associated with it, I have a number of folks from the company here. It is our goal to not have any incidents such as that, and obviously someone discharged a firearm in the air. I mean, it was basically after they had been escorted out. And that being said, like it or not, myself being a big Second Amendment individual, I mean, you know, we've got guns in trunks. It doesn't mean it's necessarily legal. We have people that do foolish things with things all of the time. And so I don't want to say it could have happened anywhere in Knox County, but quite frankly, it could have. Unfortunately, it did. It happened in the parking lot of El Tequila, but we cooperated fully with regards to the prosecution of that. So that being said, we are doing everything we can to ameliorate anybody's concerns relative to this establishment, and we intend to continue to operate as long as we are provided the opportunity within the bounds of the law of both our licensure with our beer permit from the county as well as anything else as far as just providing a service here in the community.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Jones, if I could ask you a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
The problem and my concern as commissioner of this district, and I would say most of this commission, is El Tequila being here just recently on a thin line of no more new trouble, and we've got a shooting that's a great concern to the people in the community. How do we get around and give them another chance? I don't see how we do that.
Well, I think you do, because I think they're entitled respectfully, Ms. Lee, to due process just like anybody else. And if we're going to address that, then given the fact that they participated in the hearing associated with that and the prosecution, that individual actually pled guilty. I had nothing to do with the defense of that individual. Obviously, I would have been conflicted, given my representation of El Tequila, to a misdemeanor reckless endangerment charge. You know, I get, we can say, but for, no one got hit with a round, anything of that nature. We all know Newton, that what goes up must come down. But the reality of it is to hold them responsible for somebody's behavior in the parking lot that they didn't encourage. I mean, they've got security personnel. If you have an incident in your bar or in your grill or in your restaurant or in your store, and I mean, you take and you hold somebody, then you're going to be charged with false imprisonment or false arrest. You're going to be charged with holding them against their will. You escort them out and you call law enforcement. And so that being said, I mean, that's what law enforcement is there for. You know, it is regrettable that from a timing perspective that it occurred in that perspective, but as citizens, they've done literally all they can do, and then adding these additional security layers there, I don't know, frankly, what more they can do. I mean, somebody discharging a gun, I mean, we've got the 4th of July holiday, and quite frankly, the depths of people's depravity and stupidity knows no bounds. I guarantee somebody somewhere within the county is going to shoot a firearm straight up in the air, and we're going to see reckless endangerment charges come out of that. But that being said, it is unfortunate that it occurred, and I understand from proximity relative to timing, but I think they're entitled to due process just like anybody else, and there would have to be some sort of showing that they could have done something to prevent it. And other than simply not being in business there, that's really the only thing they could have done. I don't see how they could have prohibited that or prevented it.
Thank you. I'm sure some other commissioners will have some comments as well.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Jones, sometime in this, I want to say it was this year, but it could have been late 2022, so apologies that I don't know the specific date. The Attorney General shut down an establishment in Alcoa Highway as a public nuisance because of fights in the parking lot, because of violent incidences spilling out into the parking lot, and continued issues that were in proximity to neighbors and proximity to other businesses, and they declared it a public nuisance and they shut it down. Why isn't something similar in this case? Why is this not a similar public nuisance in that because of the clientele operations and gathering of people in and around El Tequila that continues to spill out into the parking lot, it should not also be considered a public nuisance because but if not for them in business, none of this would happen in the parking lot, and continued fights and continued underage drinking and continued underage serving and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Respectfully, that's two different areas of the Tennessee Code annotated. And that being said, with all due respect to everyone's authority, I understand we live or breathe with regards to our beer permit, with regards to you. But with all due respect, and I think your legal counsel will advise you as far as actually making a declaration that it's a public nuisance, I think it's beyond the purview of this board, okay? So that being said, the way the code provides that has to be done in a court of record.
And I'm not saying that we have the authority to do that, but I'm sort of taking a generalization of.
Well, I think you've seen a situation. I actually have represented, albeit I represent a number of establishments and a number of folks. I represented a number of establishments with regards to nuisance-based and where they're entitled to due process of law. They're entitled to subpoena power. They're entitled to hearing. And I will tell you that I've been successful in basically keeping the business open more than 50% of the time. Now, the particular establishment that you're talking about, most of the time when you file an attorney general's action and you see it brought, the establishments really don't fight it because of the financial burden associated with it. So you see those type situations where they get closed down. So you will see basically injunctions and things issued associated with it. I would submit that at least in this set of circumstances, our elected attorney general is not seen fit that it rises to the level of a nuisance. It is obviously a concern, but in those nuisance cases that I've dealt with, particularly in the city of Knoxville, where we have dealt with those type situations, obviously the first line of defense is the attempt to ameliorate with security personnel and things of that nature. So,
Yeah, I'm clearly not trying to say that this board has the same sort of nuisance powers. I'm sort of bringing a broad stroke of this beer board issues permits, holds businesses accountable for those actions that they take, and we want everyone to be successful in business. We constantly fight for the rights of people to open business, to establish businesses, to operate them in a safe manner. We do everything we possibly can to support individual businesses to thrive and be part of Knox County. But I wonder how do you convince this board that when time after time after time after time after time there's either a violation inside the door of underage serving or something that spills outside the door that affects our law enforcement and our neighbors, that where's the line drawn in which somebody shouldn't be able to serve alcohol, which tends to fuel public issues?
I can't speak to my predecessor that represented El Tequila at the first. You'll recall there were two meetings. I was here for the 17th meeting with regards to what was presented there, but I have gone through the reports that are basically being attributed to activities that occurred in El Tequila, and I would submit to you that there is significant information there that indicates that not only did they not necessarily originate there, but that El Tequila, to a certain extent, and I'm not saying by law enforcement or anything of that nature, but other individuals that have been stopped, either traffic stopped, pulled over there, or something of that nature, that is getting attributed to El Tequila. That being said, I mean, I was appalled. I was like, guys, oh my God. When we hear about this shooting, which was May 7th, it was a shooting in the air. I'm like, I said, just like what y'all, we can't have this type stuff going on. We'd already tried to get KPD. We've already tried to get the Sheriff's Department. We're trying to get security. We're trying to put uniformed officers there. We've now succeeded. We're going to have uniformed officers there in the parking lot, and I think that will alleviate this type situation, so to speak. I mean, I hate to sit there and say it, obviously a lot more sophisticated when you have armed security officers there, but as far as neighborhood watch, I mean, they're picking up the phone, they're calling law enforcement. We are not going to let this situation get out of control. If this business wasn't responsible, they wouldn't be spending the money. You can see in the prospective packet that I've got and that I've attached here too, I believe it is 4-hour minimum per officer at $30 an hour relative to these security personnel. These folks are going to spend the money to make sure that this situation doesn't occur anymore. So the reassurance that I can give you is that they are doing all that they can within the bounds. I mean, we would love to hire, it's more expensive to hire off-duty Sheriff's Department officers or off-duty KPD officers to do that. They are policing other areas. At least at this point in time, our application is still pending with KPD. We have been apprised that Knox County Sheriff's Department will not do it. But that being said, obviously that would be perhaps a more effective deterrent, but they are doing literally all they can to address this situation.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that I sure wish that these measures had been taken 2-3 incidents ago. Lieutenant Walker, if you'll just refresh my memory, there were no incidents reported while the permit was suspended, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Jones, on April 17th, you stated that they maintained a profitable business during that suspension. Because of that statement, I'm having a hard time understanding the value of a beer permit for this establishment if, while the permit was revoked, there were no incidents and they were still maintaining a profitable business. My other question is this advertised as a family establishment?
Absolutely. We have food available. It is open at various times during the day. It's not just open at night. We've got that. There's a kids menu in which children are offered food. I mean, it is
Well, that's what I
not
was
just
gonna-
operated at night.
I just see hours of operation, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I do not see a kids menu. I had actually written that
Actually
down.
have the kids menu that was posted out with kids meals.
Okay,
I have it.
that's
I
not
couldn't
in our
copy
packet.
that. Yeah, I understand. I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's too big to copy.
But do you see why, why I may be compelled to revoke the license if they're able to conduct a profitable business with no incidents occurring like those that we continue to see? I don't have a compelling argument to
Well, I think-
allow this business to continue.
I think you do because of the fact that it was beyond their control. How was that incident, if you can? I mean,
I don't know, you
how
tell
was it
me.
they're
There were no
responsible?
incidents reported while the beer permit was suspended.
We could have a shooting out
So
here.
you can
in the
argue
parking-
both sides. correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But how do you have a shooting out here in any parking lot? One occurs down the street here, and somebody discharges a firearm into the air. You're holding the business owner responsible for that. They didn't condone it. They didn't encourage it. They didn't do it. So that being said, anytime that we have somebody discharge a firearm in the air or something of that nature, then we're going to sit there and we're going to take a putative action against a business. Yeah, they managed to survive with regards to a profitable business. You know, profitable means you keep the doors open. But as far as the beer actually having the permit and the folks that are going there and enjoying their food, enjoying entertainment and things, obviously, yes, they like to enjoy a beverage. So there's no question with regards to that. So, yeah, that is a significant part of it. It is crippling to them. They are aware of that.
Well, I appreciate your response and your comments.
Thank you. Mr. Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lieutenant Walker, you have knowledge of what kind of liquor permit that they have from Alcohol Beverage Control? What it's classified as?
They do have a license from the ABC board, yes.
Okay, is it a license for a bar only or as a restaurant that sells alcohol?
The last I knew, it was for a restaurant,
Okay.
restaurant establishment.
Are they still required to have a certain percentage of restaurant sales to alcohol sales?
That is
Like
my
a-
understanding, yes,
Like
sir.
a 50/50?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the state would verify through their Department of Revenue that they're actually hitting that requirement?
They were fined last year, 2022, for not meeting those goals. As far as what they've done this year, I do not know. They were fined $1,500 by TABC recently for failure to maintain law and order for the May 7th incident.
When you say recently, was there a date on that at all, or just 2023?
It was the citation was for the incident that occurred May 7th, failure to maintain law and order, but that's the only thing they've done through the state with their liquor license.
Okay. So the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Control is aware of their business?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Officers, could you just remind me what the conclusion was to the underage rape allegation that happened inside the restaurant?
It was determined by the detective working the case that it was reported a month after the fact.
Okay.
So there was no forensic evidence was not able to be obtained. He did go to the bar and request surveillance video footage of the bar, and they informed him that they didn't have any. So at this point, the underage girl, 16, was in the bar by her own admission, had been drinking, and was taken out into the parking lot by an unknown male and raped in a vehicle.
Well, you know, obviously we take great exception to that with regards to that. You can't come. You can come into my car wash and ask me for a video that I've got 30 days ago. I'm not going to be able to produce it because it's electronically re-recorded over just simply because of the data storage ability. So indicating that that's uncooperative with law enforcement, the fact that you don't have it, that's commonplace in any business associated therewith. And the statements of an individual, they're exactly that, hearsay statements. It's just like somebody makes an allegation some 30 or 40 days later against me, it becomes very difficult to defend the same. What basically ought to be part and parcel of the fact that the Knox County Attorney General's office, the agency assessed with prosecution of the same, chose not to prosecute the matter. The same thing happened with regards to where we have this one dude and two women fight in there. There's no charges out of that. Nothing arose out of that. And the only charge that arose since we've been back here is this discharge of the firearm in the air. In El Tequila, our personnel, our folks, our security personnel participated in the actual prosecution. We're there. We're the one who identifies him. We're the one who gets him prosecuted.
Thank you. Commissioner Daly?
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. This business is a nuisance. It's the only business that is open out there at these operating hours, except maybe for the pizza place next door that is a delivery-only pizza shop. So the case of this wouldn't happen if we have new security and all that. It doesn't happen because the 90 days that they were suspended, as Commissioner Frazier says, there was no issues at all, none whatsoever. And just as soon as we gave them back their beer permit, we have this issue. And the answer to the fight was push them out the door. Get them out of our office, get them out of our building, and push them out the door. Where there's no security, there was, instead of controlling it, the gentleman's not here that was their security, I don't see him. Instead of him controlling it inside the business, he didn't. My question is this, Mr. Law Director, what's our options?
Well, this board has essentially plenary authority to maintain, revoke, suspend, or impose a fine on any business that's operating in contravention of the state and the local beer regulations. Specifically, you can look at Section 4.8 or 4-8 of the Knox County zoning ordinance, which is essentially a reworking of a similar statute in state law. Subparagraph G says revocation, suspension, or imposition of civil penalty may be made for any violation of any provision of this article or chapter, or whenever it shall satisfactorily appear that the premises of any person, firm, or corporation holding a permit under this article are being maintained and operated in such a manner as to be detrimental to the public health, safety, or morals. So your authority is fairly broad here. We've heard these matters before, so I think you have a fair amount of discretion about.
Respectfully, if we're going to turn this from what we were invited to as a discussion to a hearing, and we're going to deal with somebody's license associated with it, I think any action of the board, at least at this point in time, would be arbitrary and capricious. I would ask that we be given the opportunity. If we want to have a full hearing associated, we'll drag them all down here. We'll drag the rape victim down here. We'll drag the DA down here. We'll drag everybody down here, and they can testify about all this stuff. We throw all this mud, and we talk about, quote unquote, a nuisance, okay? But let's talk about all these other businesses. Let's talk about all the other bars in Knox County that are having fights and everything of that nature, and let's look at the charges associated with them, and then let's single this one out there. Let's do that, but let's drag them all down there and have a full hearing associated with it. So that being said, we were invited down here, and that's why I prefaced my correspondence that I attached in your packets with the fact that we're invited down here to a discussion. I didn't think we were basically coming to a situation of a lynching. And that's basically what I feel is basically we're facing with regards to it. We got a business that's bending over backwards, trying to take action, trying to police, trying to do what's there. We've asked local law enforcement that are serving in other bars and other establishments across the county and across the city, and they won't come there, but yet we're going to be vilified associated with it. So that's what my issue is. So if we're going to have a full-blown hearing, let's have a full-blown hearing, but not take just arbitrary and capricious action with regards to what I consider to be the lifeline to this business as far as their license. We understand it's a privilege, and we understand that you have the power to revoke the same, but that causes me really particular grave concern because we have just these broad allegations relative to it. We have a rape that's not prosecuted. You know what a rape that's not prosecuted is? It's not a crime. It is not a crime. You don't get to sit there and indict a business for something that's not prosecuted on their premises. You know what a fight is that's not basically indicted, that's not prosecuted? It, for all intents and purposes, legally didn't occur. And that's what we've got. You look at this myriad of these just charges that get leveled against this business, and for the most part, they're they're traffic stops that occur on Maynardville Highway in proximity to this business. But we're gonna saddle this business with it? I don't think that's what this board's about. I think this board is about basically according due process to everyone that comes before it. And I don't think El Tequila is getting due process under the circumstances.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
our agenda item 7 says discussion and possible vote on El Tequila Bar and Grill. So it's properly noticed that there would be a discussion and possible vote.
Yes, I concur with that. Commissioner Lee?
I have a question for Law Director. In compliance with due process, just having this meeting, have we not given them due process and an opportunity to have a hearing? That's my question.
Sure. The way this would go is this: if the owners, if something were to happen to the license and the owners of the bar were to challenge it, it would be challenged via a writ of certiorari. It's a fancy word, basically means that the record that's made here would be transmitted to the court. The court would look at the transcript, any other evidence that's been provided. I can't recall if you've provided the list of the other offenses or incidents that have occurred at this establishment to the board. I know there's been some discussion of it. I don't know whether we've had a written submission of the incidences that you've based your reports on. But the court will look at what has been presented to this body and determine whether or not there is material evidence to support what the body did. We've got the sworn testimony of the beer board inspector. We've gotten the responses. I have seen cases where it's been suggested that if you don't have direct notice of what the incident is that results in the revocation, that can be a reason to suspend if you wanted to act out of an abundance of caution. You could renotice this and say it's for this incident. But honestly, I don't think there's anybody in this room. It's clear that Mr. Jones knew what he was going to be talking about when he came here. I think everybody knew that we were going to be primarily focused on this May 7th incident. You know, at the end of the day, is that enough for a court to uphold it? We'd have to see. But we do have sworn testimony. We really don't have a denial that the fight and the shooting took place on or near the premises. We have a list of prior incidences that have occurred, that have been placed in our record before. So as far as due process, I think due process has been served. Is there enough in the record? That remains to be seen. I'd have to, we'd put it in front of a judge, and the judge would have to determine whether there's sufficient evidence. I would say that it's a pretty high bar. Like I said, the court can't look at what you did and decide what you did is right or wrong. Okay? That's not the court's role. The court's role is to determine, did you have a rational basis for what you did? Did you have material evidence to support what you did? And if the court finds that you did, then generally the court has no choice but to uphold what you did. So that's my best statement of law on how the review would go if there's a review. Now it's up to you guys what you want to do with it.
Well, I will say that I do not want this kind of activity going on in halls, but I do agree with Mr. Jones. I have some questions on the due process. The allegations on the rape, at this point, they are allegations. The allegations between this boyfriend and 2 girlfriends, at this point, it is allegations. The only thing that we know for sure is that there was a shooting and that person has pled guilty to it, and that happened in the parking lot of El Tequilo, and they asked them to leave the bar. And I think, I'm a constitutional person, and I think they're entitled to due process, and I do not feel that they've had an adequate hearing to address these things, and I would make a motion that we set this for hearing if we're going to do any kind of action like that.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion by Lee, second by Durrett. Ms. Oster?
I did have a comment. I have to say, I feel like that, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm just coming at it as a layperson, obviously, but in my opinion, I believe this restaurant, we have given more than due process. They've been in front of us numerous times. I believe the sheriff's office has offered us ample information and opportunity to know what's going on in that business. As somebody also said, they haven't denied it. We even, because they had gotten an attorney prior to you, Mr. Jones, that came before us, and he said he had just gotten the case and he didn't have time for it, and we felt like that was due process, that we needed to give him more time to do that. And then in the meantime, we're having all of these issues coming up. So I'm not even bringing up the rape or any of the other stuff. I'm bringing up that there are problems at this business. There continues to be problems at this business. But if you as their attorney is saying it's like a driver's license and it's a privilege to have, we as this board, I believe that I can say I have heard from this restaurant more than I've heard from any other restaurant in Knox County since I've been sitting on this board. And in my opinion, I feel like that this board has done due process. So in that situation, I disagree with that.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Moyers, if this vote were to pass, can you explain what a hearing at this beer board might look like and how that process might work?
Well, I suppose you would take the evidence from our beer board inspector, from the sheriff's department, would present all of the incidences that he alleges are associated with the operation of this restaurant that he wishes to present. Mr. Jones could examine the inspector or make arguments that he wishes to make with regard to it. He could present his own witnesses in rebuttal. And at the close of that, we would have a pretty solid record to send to a court if the board decided to take action on the license. It would be probably a more solid record than we have heretofore. It is to be noted that, generally speaking, in writ of certiorari cases, that no evidence can be introduced at the trial. So if all we have from the sheriff's department is our inspector's oral relation of the incidences that are alleged to have occurred at the bar, I cannot flush that out at court, at trial. You can't add to the record. A certiorari action is a review of the record. Okay, but similarly, Mr. Jones could not bring witnesses to testify at a trial. So if you do something today, then what we have today is what we're stuck with when we get to court. If you give them a hearing, it'll give both sides a greater opportunity to flesh out the evidence for and against some punitive action against this license, and that's what would go to the court. So if you feel like there's enough, then you can take action. If you feel like you want the opportunity to get a bit more evidence in the record, to give the court a bit more to hang their hat on, then you can do that as well. Um, If the court were to find that that there weren't sufficient evidence, then this body could then hold the hearing and take another action if it wished. Because it's not a finding on certiorari, it's not a finding that the board acted improperly, although it tends to get couched in terms of arbitrary, capricious, and illegal. What that really means is there wasn't sufficient evidence to support what the body did. Okay? So that's where we are. If you're comfortable with the state of the evidence, if you're comfortable putting that in front of a judge, then you can act, I think. If you'd like to put more in front of the court for the court's consideration, then you could have another hearing and have that opportunity. So, I hope that explains it.
Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a thought, if Commissioner Lee's motion were to pass, I might suggest that we do such a hearing by special call meeting of the Beer Board rather than try to fit it in around other potential applications and violations. Just a thought. I'm listening to all this, and I've been here for all this just like you guys have, and I think there probably is enough for me, but that may not be the question. Ultimately, it may not be me that has to be convinced. I've lived in the neighboring community my entire life. I know this place well. I have said before, and I'll say again, I think it's a terrible place for a bar. I think that's part of the problem. And I think I know Commissioner Lee's heart in this situation and these types of situations. But I do tend to trust her ear on this because I'm not an attorney, but she is. And in the way she hears what our law director is saying, I do tend to trust her ear in that. And so I'm going, while as I said, I think there's enough for me to take action, I'm going to support Commissioner Lee's motion for hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Law Director, would you read that last sentence on the Tennessee Code?
All right.
License.
Revocation, suspension, or imposition of a civil penalty may be made for any violation of the provisions of this article and chapter or wherever it shall satisfactorily appear that the premises of any person, firm, corporation holding a permit under this article are being maintained and operated in such a manner as to be detrimental to the public health, safety, or morals.
Those last few words is enough. Detrimental to the safety of the community, to the customers. We've met, I think we've met the standard. I mean, I know how I would vote now or next month or whenever it is. The standards to revoke this beer license, in my opinion, has been met. They are a detrimental business to the safety and welfare of not only the community, but the officers that are coming there to stop the fights, to check all this stuff out. So, Commissioner Lee, I don't know how I'd vote on this one. I mean, I may pass this first time, but I hate the word pass. I'm going to say, I don't like what Mr. Jones has threatened to drag. I'm going to drag these people down. I'm going to drag. I don't want this to turn into a dragging event. This is not about that person, that 16-year-old that was served alcohol underage, being raped, that it was too late to do anything about. I don't want that person drugged down here. That's not what this is about. This is about the safety and the welfare of the whole community. It's what this is about, in my opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification again, Lieutenant Walker, you said the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission cited them $1,500 for the May 9th incident?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and their citing was?
They failure to maintain law and order for the establishment.
And then refresh our memories when they had the full-blown fight in the parking lot when the patrons emptied out of the bar, and it required all of the officers of the Knox County Sheriff's Department to respond to the brawl, riot, whatever you want to say.
That was November 2nd of 2022.
22, okay,
Yes.
okay. And then basically what Commissioner Frazier has said, that when their beer permit was suspended for 60 days, that they were good as gold.
It was initially suspended for 30, and then the beer board extended it for another 60 days, so it was a total of 90 days. And during that period of no beer sales, they had loud music complaints was basically all they had.
Okay, so the suspension for 90 days did work, theoretically?
Yes, sir. There was
Yeah.
no
Okay.
major complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ward?
I feel similar to Commissioner Beeler and Commissioner Daly. I've heard and seen enough personally. I also believe in due process, so I have no problem voting yes for hearing, giving them a hearing of sorts. If we are, I think we should continue the suspension of the license until that hearing. I think we should make the hearing November timeframe and have it then and talk about it at that point.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just asked the maker of the motion to maybe put a specific time frame on the motion so we can have some direction of how long everybody would have to prepare if it were to be approved.
Thank you.
I think given some more months would be helpful.
Commissioner Lee, would you be willing to restate your motion? Or not?
Yes. I would make a motion that we set this for hearing in 60 days. A special setting. Suspend the license, beer license for 60 days. Until the hearing. Pardon me? With a hearing to follow.
All right.
Yeah, can you just restate that? Because I think that was a different motion than what we started. So it's suspension and hearing, or we started with just hearing? Is that?
Suspension and hearing.
Your motion is to suspend
For 60 days. And have a hearing.
And at the end of 60 days, have a hearing as in a due process
Yes.
hearing?
Yes, whether or
All
not
right.
we totally take their license away.
All right. Mr. Law Director, is that appropriate?
Well, it is. I would just say that I don't know what 60 days where it puts us. I think you might want to actually have a date and time certain that you set it to. If the beer board chairman wants to set that, that's fine. If we do 60 days thinking that we're going to be on this day 2 months from now, we have meetings that start at 2 and 3. Like today, there were meetings at 12 and at 2. So I think you need to find a time where you have an hour or two free to do this. So I would you can either leave it to the chairman to find a time that works for everybody, or we can set a specific date
I'll leave
and
that
time.
to the chair.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
second the motion. It hasn't been seconded.
Thank you. All right. We have an amended original motion.
An amended
by
motion, so
Lee.
the second can second it, sorry.
Thank you. With a second by Beeler. And I'm going to restate the motion that we suspend for a period until the August 21st Beer Board meeting. At that time, we will meet to give El Tequila due process.
Will that be a
Can I-
special setting? I thought we were going to do a special setting.
Oh, all right, I'll back up, I've heard the recommendation, we meet at 3 o'clock.
I land at 3 from New York, so I could be here for the 4 and 5 o'clock meeting, just so you have a heads up.
please.
All right, hold on a minute here. When we start throwing new dates out there, we can have more conflicts than just Commissioner Ward's.
I know I don't have the dog in the fight on the scheduling on the 21st, but I'm president of the American Board of Trial Advocates. I'm flying back in. I'm in Whistler, Canada, but I come back in that night, like late. I could do it on the 22nd, but on the 21st, I just cannot do it on that Monday. I'm sorry.
Is there work? All right, thank you. Vice Chair Durrett has checked and seen that we actually have no other meetings scheduled. So I will restate that we are making a motion to suspend the beer license until August 22nd at 3 o'clock, at which time we will have a due process hearing. Is that satisfactory? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. It's a 10-1 count. Seeing no other business, we are adjourned.